Hello, everyone. Welcome to All Things College and Career, the podcast to turn to for all of your college and career planning needs. We are your hosts, Meg Gary
and Bobby Ryan,
owners of academic and career advising services located in Kennebunk, Maine.
We started this podcast to provide helpful information to listeners researching careers, colleges, or academic majors. Choosing your career or college is such a big decision, which is why our motto is, learn before you leap. Before investing a lot of time or money, it's so important to do your research and to really explore your options.
Each podcast will offer interesting stories and valuable insights that we think you will find entertaining and informative.
Subscribe to our podcast and you'll have it ready to go on your playlist every Monday morning. So, learn before you leap each week with us.
I'm so excited about today's guest, Kate Grondin. She is the president and founder of a company called Home Transition Resource, and I love her story. She started her business about 10 years ago, all on her own. She was inspired by the idea while helping her parents pack up to move, and today she has 25 employees. It's just crazy. So if you are someone that is dreaming of starting up your own business and you are looking for some advice or inspiration, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation with Kate. I asked her all about how she got started in the move transition industry, and she was so gracious sharing all of the details. Also, if you are considering downsizing at all, for example, moving from a larger home into a smaller one, or if you are in the process of assisting your parents with a transitional move to an independent living community or assisted living or something of that nature, then again, I think you'll find this conversation incredibly valuable. Kate just has such a vast amount of experience in the downsizing and move transition industry, and she is just so generous in sharing lots of tips and advice on how to effectively downsize and move. Anyway, enough of that. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kate. Hi, Kate. Welcome to All Things College and Career. Thank you so much for doing the podcast. I'm so excited to be interviewing you. I'm just so amazed at the business you've built, and as a woman, just super impressed. And I'm just really jazzed to learn more about it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for having me. I'm flattered that you asked.
So for all the listeners who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Yep, my name is Kate Grondin, and I am the founder of Home Transition Resource, which is a move management company focusing on assisting older adults with the physical and emotional aspects of making a later life transition. So we help people move from one home to another. It's a very daunting task for a lot of people. So that's where we come in and we help them.
Yeah, that's such a great service to provide and can relate to how daunting that whole task can be. So can you tell us just a little bit about your background?
So I have a master's degree in social work, and I was a social worker for a while, then did a few other things, had children, and when they got to be school age, I was helping my own parents downsize from a home that they've lived in for over 60 years. And it's at that time that I decided to start my own company and be a move manager. So I am a professional move manager now.
Wow, that's just amazing that something as simple as helping your folks move sparked this idea inside of you.
It was an idea that I thought was like, I came up with this idea, like no one had ever done this before. And I was so excited. And I called my husband and said, I'm going to start a business. I think this is what I'm going to do. And so I did a little bit of research, and I found out that there was a National Association of Senior Move Managers, and that there were people that were doing this. But I joined that, and the rest is history. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years.
Wow, I love that. So I'm just curious, you said you have a master's in social work. Did that help you out in this business at all?
100%. It is something that I credit with, a lot of our success, because people who refer business to me are people from, let's just say, assisted living communities. And they love the social work background because they know that I'm going to have a sensitivity to the emotional aspects of making a move. And so they, people who refer business feel very comfortable and comforted by the fact that I have an MSW. So yeah, it's helped a lot.
Yeah, I love that. It must require a lot of sensitivity. That's such a stressful time in a person's life.
Exactly.
Anyway, your parents once ran a successful business in Lunenburg, Vermont called the Steinauer Press. A little side note, I know your dad was honored with an honorary doctorate degree at Dartmouth College alongside Meryl Streep, which is pretty interesting. Cool little tidbit. But I was just wondering if you can share a little bit about that history of what you grew up with and how it may have influenced where you are today.
So I did grow up with a business in my backyard, my dad's printing business. A lot of the way he managed his business is the way I manage my business now. I learned a lot about his style of working with people, running a business, and I think it did have a big influence. And my mom often says to me, "You're just like your dad," in the way I, talk to employees and whatnot. So I think it did have a big influence on me, his business, and watching him grow his business.
So that was like going to college to learn how to run a business without even knowing it when you were young.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I didn't realize how much I was picking up at the time.
Right.
But now that I'm in his position, I definitely see that I picked up a lot.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So tell us about your company called Home Transition Resource.
So Home Transition Resource started out with just me. And I sort of pounded the pavement and went and told a lot of people about what it is I was doing. And at the time, it was sort of a brand new concept to people, hadn't really heard about it. And so what we do is our goal is to make the transition from home for older people easier. And a lot of people today have accumulated a lot of things. We have become a nation of consumers. And so people have a lot of things in their homes that they really don't need or use. And what we find is that when it comes time to move, sometimes the fact that people have so much to move or to get rid of prevents them from making a necessary move. And then it becomes unsafe for someone to stay in their home. So what we do is we break it down for people and we make it easy. We have all of the resources necessary to help people sell their things, to donate their things, to find new homes for things, which is really the key to getting rid of things. You don't want your things to go into a landfill or not be appreciated like you appreciated them. And so a big part of what we do is the downsizing piece to help people feel good about what's happening with the things that they can't take with them. And so that's a variety of things, whether it be, going to an auction house or donating it to a college that they went to. Just finding a good home for their thing.
Wow, that's, you've come up with some clever resources there. And I can imagine how daunting it would be. And to have somebody swoop in and take all the stress away must just be such a relief for so many people.
For some people who do our full service, we start with creating a floor plan for their new home. So it's picking out all the things that they do want instead of trying to decide what to do with the things that they don't want first. So we pick all the things that they do want. We put it on a floor plan so that that floor plan is shared with the movers and the new people at their new community if they're moving to assisted living or an independent living community. And then we help them to pack. We help them to unpack. If they're putting their house on the market, we'll stage their home, help them find people to do repairs and upgrades to get their house ready for the market. So it's pretty full service, and anything and everything having to do with the transition is something we can help these people with.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's like one-stop shopping.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did notice when I was reading on your website that with a floor plan that sometimes you can offer this magnetic board so people can sit in their easy chair and move things around.
Exactly. That's the fun part of the process is the floor planning, because when we do use the magnetic board, we can give it to our clients and then they can, play around with it and move the furniture around just to see how different things would look. Yeah, that gets people excited about moving, but it's also a very necessary part of the process. So
Right.
when we use magnetic board, it's very interactive.
Yeah, that's so key. And also, I noticed that you provide the more technological version as well if people are interested in that with
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the magnetic floor plans work well. In some cases, in other cases, it's best to do a floor plan online. We can do 3D floor plans. Some of our clients like that. So we try and offer a variety of ways to do the floor planning.
Yeah, that's perfect. So what is your role at Home Transition Resource? What's your current role? I know you started the company, but where are you
Yeah,
at?
so I used to do a lot of the one-on-one with clients, but now since the company has grown, I do more of the sales and marketing. So I do a lot of presentations to real estate companies, independent living communities, assisted living communities. I'll go into law offices. A lot of lawyers use our services. So I do a lot of presenting. I do a lot of networking events and just, meetings with people to let them know about our services. Yeah.
So anybody associated with an assisted living facility or an independent living community should give Kate at Home Transition Resource a call because I bet she can help you out.
Yeah, that is true because we do work with a lot of communities that actually pay us to move their residents. It's part of their marketing strategy
Right.
to employ us. So yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, so it's a great service. You make them look good by making this transition so easy for them, for their residents.
Yeah.
So you were just inspired to start the business from helping your mom and dad downsize?
So that was the inspiration. I had been sort of itching to do something, and I knew I wanted to sort of run my own show. And when I helped my parents, a bell went off. And it was a daunting task for them. They had, as you can imagine, my father owning a printing business, he had lots of books. And so it was the books that were weighing most heavily on their minds as to what they were going to do with them. And so we decided that we needed to catalog the books. Well, my father was just like, how in the world am I going to do that? It's going to take me years. So I helped him to do that. And there's a couple things that I learned. Well, I figured that, my parents could not be the only people in the situation of, what am I going to do?
Exactly. If it's not books, it's something else. Everybody has. Yeah. So.
Exactly. And the second thing I learned is that, what started out as a daunting process actually became very enjoyable. And I tell people this a lot. Like, I know it's overwhelming to you to think about, dealing with all of your stuff, but we actually do find joy in the process. And that's really our goal, is to make sure that people, aren't so stressed out about the process that they don't find the joy. And the joy is discovering things that you haven't looked at for many, many years, pulling things out that are, sort of surprises or something you've been looking for years, and finally you found it. So it can be an enjoyable process.
I love that. So it's like taking what could be stressful and daunting and turning it into a really happy time. And I love that you bring that energy to the process. That's such a great way to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. We try and make it a positive experience for our clients.
So what did it take to get this business started? I mean, obviously you decided to do it. So what was your next step?
So the first thing I did was I decided on a name. I decided to do a website and get some business cards, get a phone number, doing all of those things that needed to be done, going down to the town office and filling out, whatever I needed to, getting a bank account. So it's really getting all those things set up and then deciding on a marketing strategy. And really, when I say that, I didn't write anything down and I didn't, have a real strategy. I just knew that I needed to go out and tell people about what I was doing. And so I picked, obviously the senior communities and realtors to market to. And it did take, the business didn't come right away. It took a good 6 months before anybody referred me business. And
so pounding the pavement pretty hard for 6 months. And
definitely.
And this is in 10 years ago, social media wasn't quite as effective as it is today. So you didn't have that really to play with much, I imagine.
Exactly. And so it was just going out and letting people know what it, what I was doing. And, another key was, making sure that I really connected with these people. So the follow-up was really important, to make sure I followed up and let them know how much I appreciated them meeting us, and just sort of doing an appreciation marketing strategy as well, and just making sure that I thanked everybody. And I think that went a long way too, to letting people know that I was genuine and really cared. So,
that's so interesting. So you really groomed your networks, or just, basically really built a relationship. You didn't just drop the ball, make one visit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And the first person who referred me a client referred me 40 clients last year.
No way. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. So obviously you're getting a lot of repeat business too, which is impressive.
Yeah. So the community that referred me that one client now refers me a ton of clients, and clients themselves will tell their friends. And, I think people, when they think about moving, it's like, oh, I just, pack my boxes and put it on a truck, but it's so much more than that. And so I think that at an older age too, it's a different ball game. You're not, it's a lot of work, and you're not as physically capable of doing.
Absolutely. And as you had mentioned before, that whole emotional process of separating with your lifelong belongings. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how many people did you just start on your own, or how did you?
Well, I did, but I quickly realized that this is not a job that you can do on your own if you're going to do it effectively. So I hired a couple friends, and from there it kept growing, because I just, you have more than a few clients, and you can't do it with just, yourself or a couple people. So as the business grew, the team grew.
Wow. So how many employees do you have now?
So now we have 25.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and we not only did we grow as a team, but we grew, geographically. So, it started out in my sort of hometown north of Boston, but now we're all over Eastern Massachusetts, and we do some Southern New Hampshire and Southern Maine. So, yeah.
So that's your area. What do you do if somebody wants to move to the West Coast? Can you manage that, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we belong to the National Association of Senior Move Managers, and as such, we're tapped into all of the move managers across the country, and we all work similarly. And so what we call that a job share. So if I'm moving somebody to California, I will do the upfront work and transfer all of that information, how many boxes are coming to California, what their floor plan is. We'll do the upfront work. We'll do the floor plan and the packing, the downsizing, and share any notes and pictures. Pictures are really important with the move manager out in California, and we'll coordinate that.
So
that move manager receives the truck, all the items on the truck, knows what's coming, and so their team is there to unpack them on the other side. So it really is a seamless process.
Wow, that's great that you're able to offer that. And I can see where the pictures might really help, because, trying to describe a certain belonging, it must be difficult, but to have a picture and say this goes here and that goes there must be really
Exactly.
helpful.
Pictures are really important for us, because we try and replicate, especially when we're moving someone to assisted living, we try and make their new environment look as similar, feel as homey as where they came from. So when we're unpacking and we're looking at pictures, we make sure that, what was on the bedstand is on the bedstand in their new home. If they got out of bed on the right-hand side and looked at a certain picture, that picture is going to be there in their new home, and their bookcase is going to look the same. So it's really important for us to minimize the frustration of like trying to find things in your new home by looking at pictures and making sure everything is the same.
Oh, I love that. And it must be especially difficult if you are old. People can get so used to where to find things. So that must just make it that much easier for them to transition.
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that they're not frustrated, and that transition is smooth, and not there's no bumps in the road trying to find things and getting frustrated and confused.
Right. That's perfect. So, did you know anything about running a business before you decided to open up your own, other than growing up in a family business? Or
I really didn't. I had had some management experiences in other jobs.
hmm
And so I knew how to be a manager, but I
hmm
didn't really know how to run a business. It was,
So you just threw yourself in and learned along the way.
that's correct.
Wow,
Yeah.
I love that. And just a lot of basic natural instincts kicked in along the way, I'm assuming.
I think so. I think it was my social work background and my ability to relate to seniors. I've always loved seniors and I've always
hmm
loved relating to them. And I think that just allowed me to know what was the right thing to do in my business, you know?
Right.
So I didn't have a business plan. I just instinctually knew that this is how I wanted to run my business.
I love that. And something that I think is so beneficial or helpful to listeners, that we sometimes underestimate our experiences along the way, like being a social worker. Who would have ever thought that would help you run a business? But sometimes these life experiences, they need to build upon each other before you can actually be successful at something.
I agree with that. And just one little thing about the social work degree is that I think it's such a versatile degree that,
hmm
if anybody is thinking about getting an MSW, I mean, there's so many things that you can do with that.
Oh, for sure. And that's true of a lot of master's degrees, not to digress. But so were there any shocks or surprises along the way when you were starting out?
I think that I was surprised at how much work it really was to make a move. Sorry. Yeah, I think I was surprised that it was as much work as it was, and that it required as many people as I needed. I think that was probably one of the biggest surprises.
I mean, that makes sense. And just so admirable that you would take it on all on your own initially, thinking, I can do this.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just, I
A
just
little
love that.
But
Yeah.
the other thing too, I think another big surprise, and I think for many people on my team, is that people have a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and more than you realize. And I think we hear about hoarding a lot and we see the shows on TV, but it's so much more prevalent than anybody imagined.
Wow.
And I think that's been a real surprise to all of us, is how much stuff people really have.
Wow. That's interesting. Do you think that's uniquely American, or I don't know if you know
I
how.
kind of do.
Yeah.
I Because we have such big homes, and I think the bigger our homes are, the more stuff we think we can have. And the storage industry here in the U.S. is such a huge industry.
Oh my goodness. It's so true.
Billions.
I see storage facilities opening up left and right, and they seem to all be filling up. That's crazy.
Exactly, and that's just sort of kicking the can down the road, if you will. That stuff needs to be addressed too. So we work with
hmm
clients who have houses that are full, and then they also have storage units, and that their garages are full, and their garages aren't used for their cars; they're used for
Yeah.
storage,
Right.
basements and attics. So it's that has been really eye opening for us.
Wow. Well, I want to touch on that a little bit later about the storage. So we'll leave it for now. But so who utilizes your services and why? Like you mentioned, seniors going into assisted living. Is that your primary?
So that's where we started. We started, and I started marketing to senior communities, and so that's sort of our core. But once the word got out, a lot of attorneys will use us for
Okay.
people who have passed away, and
Oh,
there need to be divided.
that
And
makes such sense because they must have such a connection when they're settling an estate.
exactly. So we work with a lot of attorneys and families of theirs that are trying to decide what to do, and a lot of people from out of town. So they need the support, they need the resources, the local resources to help them deal with things.
Right. So I can imagine if you're a son or a daughter and your mom or dad live far away, and you want to help, but you can't necessarily be right there to help, that you would just be a perfect option for them.
Exactly. Yep. We do that a lot. We work with people from out of state, and financial managers. Accountants often refer, because
Oh,
who are they're financial advisors they trust, and
right.
when someone passes away or moves to assisted living, their accountants are their trusted resource. And so
Right.
oftentimes we'll get referrals from them. Realtors are a big source of referrals because the realtor wants to put a home on the market, but it's just filled with, it's just not market ready. Then they need help. And oftentimes it's either busy professionals who don't have the time to do it themselves, or, older adults who, are having difficulty doing it themselves.
Right. So maybe they haven't got around to doing any updates for a lot of years. So you guys come in and take care of that, spruce their house up and make it ready for sale.
Exactly. Yeah. And we work with divorced couples who are also dividing up, an estate or selling a home. So it's just a real variety of people that we work with. But I would say probably 60% of our business is the older adults.
Okay. That is an interesting variety, though. And I can imagine the divorced couples is another whole emotional strain. So that must be.
Yeah. It's all emotional in different ways,
Right. Right. So that's where your skill set of your background really comes into play to help with that part of it.
Yeah, I think so.
So what do you think the benefits of using your service versus going it alone like?
So first of all, it's, doing it yourself is exhausting. And we have had clients actually who want to do a lot of it themselves. And, once they've moved, they found themselves in the hospital for, injured backs or, sore muscles or whatever it is. It's just too much. And so we really encourage our clients when they do hire us to let us do. There are things that we can't do, like according to their paperwork, they need to do that. But, let us pack the boxes. Let us move the heavy stuff, from upstairs to downstairs or whatever. So that's one benefit, is just the extra set of hands. Emotionally, I think it's helpful to have someone who's non-objective. Someone who's objective.
Right. Right.
To, say, do you really need this? You haven't worn it in 5 years. Do you really think you can wear it? Do you need 5 red sweaters, or whatever? So it's helpful. And I think people who don't have a professional helping them can oftentimes bring too much to their new home, so that their new home is unsafe and they don't have the places to put things. So it's space planning and really giving it the thought that it deserves. So,
and helping them to prioritize what they really do need and those that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard if, we'll take pictures of the new kitchen cabinets. We'll know how many cabinets they have. So, this is how much you need to downsize by. And we have lots of little tricks and tips that, that without us, they wouldn't have, and it would just be harder for them.
I love that. And also that it's so important that they can focus on what you really need them to focus on, as you said, the paperwork and things, and not be burdened by all the rest of it.
Exactly. We always work as a team with our clients. And so, we decide, what is it that you need to do? And, and then what can we do? Let's divide this up. And so, we can keep our clients on track and, get the job done. But I think another real benefit to using our services is that, and I always tell our clients that this is a treat that they can give themselves. We do all the unpacking. So, a client doesn't even need to be around when we're packing and unpacking. They can go about, their day. And when, the truck comes to their new home with all of their boxes, we're there. Like the minute a box comes in, it's being unpacked. And so by the end of move day, they come into their home and it's all set up. Their bed is made, their curtains are hung, their pictures are on the wall. The teapot is on the stove. They can just come. And it's really one of the most joyful times we spend with our clients, because they come in. It's almost like a reveal. And they,
I love that. How long does it take you to do all that? I'm sure it depends on the size, but can you get that all done in a day?
Yeah, generally we can get it done in a day, and it just depends on the size of the team that we put on the job. And so our goal is but if we don't finish in a day, we do, we prioritize and make sure that their bedroom and their bathroom and their kitchen are set up so that first night in their new home, they're good. And then we have to do that second bedroom and do a few things in the living room and dining room the next
Right.
day. Do that.
Yeah, but that's perfect that you prioritize where they'll be sleeping and, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, make it safe for them for that first night.
Yeah. So I noticed on your website that you have an A+ NASMM accreditation. What's that?
Yeah, so that is through our National Association of Senior Move Managers. Companies can become accredited, and that just means that you've passed sort of a rigorous review of your systems and how you conduct your business. And so not a lot of companies have the A+ accreditation, but for me, it was important to go through the process of becoming accredited and have that accreditation.
It just provides us some reassurance to your client.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it difficult for you to get, or?
I mean, you have to make sure that you have certain policies and processes in place. So a lot of that I already had in place, and a lot of it, you have to have all your ducks in a row. I guess that's it. And so it was good for me because it just made me realize where I needed to improve. And so once I did that and became accredited, I felt like, okay, this is, my business is in good shape.
Yeah, I love that. It also helped you to see where improvements you can make. That's great. So another thing I picked up on your website is you have some guiding principles by which you run your business. And I was reading through those and I really found them to be so thoughtful. I loved that you had a picture of people's humble little belongings, and that you mentioned how you show a lot of respect to people's life and belongings and history, no matter the monetary value, and also that you really focus on the person in transition, no matter who's paying the bill. So I don't know. I just was wondering if you could comment on that at all.
So these are sort of an ethics code of ethics, if you will, that the National Association of Senior Move Managers has for all of their members. And I just adopted it for our business. Okay. And it is really important for us to have these principles to fall back on when we have a question. And so, for example, if the children are paying mom's bill, you could get into a situation where it's like, okay, who really is our client? But no matter who pays the bill, for us, our client is always the person in transition. So, that it helps us to become grounded, I guess. When we have a question, we can refer back to this set of principles, and it helps us. People are often, sort of embarrassed when we come into their homes because it's messy, or, we are just so non-judgmental. We've seen it all. People. Right. So I hope that if people read these guiding principles, they'll understand that they don't need to worry about, us coming in and being judgmental. And, if they have a $2 little statue, it's just important to us as, the $1,000 piece of, jewelry. So, that's why I put that there, because I want people to feel comfortable that it doesn't matter who you are, what you have. We're going to be the same no matter what.
I love that. That's perfect. So I have a couple of quick questions about downsizing. So, I mean, there's a huge percentage of our population that's getting into the senior or AARP ages, I guess. And I think it's a big trend right now of downsizing. So I was just wondering if you could share with all your experience some tips about downsizing, like what are your best tips for downsizing? When's the best time to start downsizing? What are the biggest mistakes people make or the biggest challenges? And also I wanted to touch on storage, like what should you put into that storage unit and what is not worth storing and those sorts of things.
So when people ask me when is the best time to start downsizing, I always say now. And it's right. Whether moving or not, we all have things in our home that we don't all have a junk drawer. And right. If the answer to when should I start, it's now. You should always be sort of purging things that you don't need. And one of the biggest challenges, I think people look at their house and say, oh my God, where do I start? Starting right. is the hard part. And I always tell people to start small. So it's not like I'm going to do my whole attic. I'm going to do just this corner of my attic. Right. And and just really making little baby steps, because that gives you a little bit of practice, it gives you some momentum, and it gets you to see that it's doable. Right. So not trying to get overwhelmed by the whole house, but just taking it little bits at a time.
Kind of like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Kind of
there you go. Yeah. And then, I think a lot of people think that their things are worth a lot of money. And so they get stuck on this idea that they need to sell their things and make money. And it is so hard to sell things on the secondary market right now because everyone is downsizing. And there's a million buffets on the secondary market. And,
oh my God. A million what? Buffets?
Like buffets and dining room tables and, sofas and whatnot. There's just, to sell your things is hard. So I always tell people it's equal parts money and gone, because if you don't sell it, you're going to have to pay somebody to come and take it out. So just, get what you can get for it and be glad that it's gone and that you don't have to pay somebody. So I think that's a big challenge for us is setting expectations for our clients, and that your things probably are not worth what you think they are, and just be happy to get whatever, or that they're going to a good home.
Oh, that's so interesting. Like, are there any things that people have that do sell well on the secondary market, or?
So surprisingly, things in your garage are probably really popular.
Really?
Tools, like snow blowers and lawnmowers and things like that. And genuine antiques are, they will sell, but most people don't have there are a lot of reproductions out there. So, people that think they're antiques, really they're not. So, yeah, I mean, jewelry sells. Jewelry probably will always sell. But dining room tables are probably the hardest thing to get rid of.
It's interesting. Never knew that.
So it's just adjusting the expectations. So those are some of the things that I tell people right out front is, start now, start small, and adjust your expectations.
Okay, that's good. So what do you recommend to your clients that is worth storing? Like, because storage units can be pretty pricey, I would imagine. And
so we try not to recommend storage at all unless it's temporary and people have a plan to get things out within a couple of months. One of the times that we absolutely do fall on storage option is when we're working with a hoarder who will not move otherwise because they cannot get rid of their things. We will put those things into storage that makes it easier for the person to move forward. But other than that, I mean, we try and get our clients to see that this is the opportunity. Moving is the opportunity now to address everything, and don't postpone that. Just address it now so that you don't have to do it later, and you have our help to do it. And so we put very little in storage.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. What can you tell us about home inventory? I noticed that you promote that on your website. Why is that important?
So we do inventories a lot when we're working with attorneys and they're settling an estate. And so we'll have to do an inventory of all of the belongings. And that helps to divide the estate. We put it online and families can come and choose from the list what they want. Inventories often include pictures. So it's a way to divide an estate. It's also a great way, for instance, when my parents moved, I have a lot of siblings. And so, an inventory is a way to see where things went, because to this day, we're like, what happened to that, picture above the fireplace? Who has that? So it eliminates questions. It's a really good document to have for future reference. So there are just a number of things, some people just want to have an inventory of everything. Right. And
so you'll come in and do that. Do you do pictures or just a typed list?
So we'll document the item and measurements and pictures, and put it all online.
So we already kind of talked about packing and unpacking and resettling, how you mentioned that, it's you take care of everything from the curtains to making the bed and the tea kettle on the stove. And I also noticed on your website that you have the same person that packed the box, unpack it.
Yeah, that's really important to us for consistency of the team and accountability, and making sure that who packed that box will unpack it because they know exactly where it came from and how it should be reset up. So yeah, that consistency of the team members is really important when we're doing the pack and an unpack.
And that must be a reassuring selling point as well for what you offer. Why do you recommend staging, or why can that be important?
So a lot of people don't understand why a house needs to be staged, but think about it this way. If you are selling your car, you're going to take it to the car wash, you're going to vacuum it out, you're going to polish it up, you're going to make that car look as good as it can look for someone who's going to be looking to purchase. So it's the same thing with your house. You want it to be the best it can be to present to the market. And a staged house sells faster, it sells for more money. And with our clients, oftentimes they have a time frame that they need to work within. They've already made a commitment to their new home, and they don't want to own two places at the same time. So it's like, we need to get things sold quickly. So the one way to do that or to maximize that, is to stage your home. So,
yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
Staging doesn't mean that you're going to go out and get all new furniture. It just means that you work with what you have and you make it look as best as it can look.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So how do your clients benefit from having a service coordination? You've kind of covered that, but I don't know if you have anything more to add on that.
Well, I think that, the whole process is so overwhelming that when, you've got 4 movers coming in the day of the move, to be able to take them through your house and to answer all the questions that they may have. I mean, it's a very chaotic, busy day. And so to have somebody there who's done it a million times, who knows the movers, who knows how to load the truck, things like that, it's just, some people find that very beneficial because things
absolutely.
don't get left behind. The right boxes get taken. The donation boxes don't get on the moving truck, and the moving boxes aren't left with the donation pile. Things like that.
Right.
That
Just
are common mistakes. Someone who knows exactly what's going on.
Somebody coordinating the whole effort, basically.
Yeah. And people who, older adults who've lived in their homes for a long time, they don't know movers. They don't know the first thing about, getting a mover estimate. So just having someone guide that process for them and recommend a mover who is sensitive to their needs and whatnot is just valuable.
Oh, absolutely. And I also noticed you provide like a bereavement dispersal and estate settlement. What's that all about?
So when we're working with families who a family member has passed, and for example, I was working with 3 daughters, and if both parents had passed away, they needed to put their house on the market, but they were just still grieving the loss of their parent, and it was too much, but they needed to offload the house because they couldn't afford it. So it was bringing us in and really helping them through that grieving process and the process of clearing out a home. And it just is more difficult because it's just, you've got all that emotion and question about what would your parents want you to do kind of thing. So
right. Trying to honor their wishes and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see where that would be so helpful. So what do you do about people that say their children want them to downsize and go into assisted living or whatever, but they are like, oh no, we're staying in our own house. We're not moving. What do you do about that? Do you ever deal with people like that? That is
a situation the family needs to work out. And then, once that decision is made, we get involved. I know it happens a lot. And it's just something the family needs to work out.
Right.
If it's time to make that necessary move, we'll come in and we'll explain our services. And I think that can help maybe tip the scales a bit, but they need to make that decision. Yeah.
Right. So if they do decide to stay put, do you offer, can you help them out with that?
Yeah, oftentimes, people will decide to stay in their homes, but they want to move their bedroom to downstairs, for example, or they need to, remove the carpets because, or the rugs because, it's a tripping hazard or whatever. So yes, we call that sort of the age in place service. And we'll go on in and make the environment a little bit more
hospitable to.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the major challenges you face of running this business?
So right now, our challenge is that there's such a demand for the service. It's finding qualified people, just keeping up with the demand. I mean, we've always been able to find good people, but right now it seems like the demand is so great that we're like pressured by it. And we're very picky about who we hire. It needs to be the right person. So it's trying to juggle our schedules and making sure that everything is covered right now and hiring people. So I guess that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a great problem to have. But what do you think when you are looking for somebody qualified? What's important to you that this potential applicant has?
Yeah, so it needs to be someone who is sort of customer service oriented, someone who has a sensitivity to the aging population. We hire a lot of teachers, for example. Teachers are very organized people. They're very sensitive. They're very caring. We also have nurses on our staff for the same reason. So it's sort of that kind of person who really has a desire to help and more than needing to work, wants to work in this type of job. So yeah, that's who we're looking for. Someone with some flexibility in their schedule. Yeah.
That makes total sense. So if somebody was interested in your services, what's the average cost for what you provide? Like, what do most people end up spending, or what is the range?
I would say that sort of an average move with a little bit of downsizing, some floor planning, pack and unpack, is probably around $5,000. With all of our services. But oftentimes people will be able to sell some of their things to offset that cost. And if people come to us and say, "Oh, we only want to spend $3,000 or $2,000, where do I get the biggest bang for my buck?" Then we can create a plan on how to use that money, most advantageously for them. A lot of people can do things on their own, but we just, like I said before, work as a team and try and figure that out.
Oh, that's a great option that you provide for people that want to keep the budget down a little bit, but still want your services. So
sometimes we can work with clients so that if they are selling a home, they can pay us at closing, for example.
Wow, that's accommodating.
Yeah. To a little bit more, sort of reasonable and doable for people.
For sure. So just curious, you're running this business. Do you have to do a lot of public speaking, or how does that?
A lot of public speaking. Not really something I necessarily enjoy or am good at, but I've had a lot of practice at this point. But there is a lot. That's a great way to get the word out to a large population and get people to understand and educate people as to what you're doing. So it's a great way to market your business. So it's a necessary thing.
Okay, that makes sense. So just for our listeners that are tuning in because they're hoping to start their own business and want a little inspiration from you, is there anything you can recommend to them? Like, what kind of education or training do you think would be most beneficial? What kind of qualities should you have to start your own business? How does one get started? What is the day-to-day like? Advantages, drawback, those kinds of things.
I think that if you have an idea that you truly believe in, you need to run with it. It's, anybody can do anything if they truly believe in what they're doing. And I think that, be realistic about, you're not going to make a lot of money the first year, just really be realistic about the financial piece of it and be prepared for that. A lot of people that have gone into this business haven't realized how hard it is to sort of get up and running. And and so they haven't made it. And so if you have realistic expectations about the financial piece, I think that's really good. And what else did you ask me? I bet you had some suggestions in that question.
Yeah, just wondering if you could recommend, say, if it's a young person that's really interested in someday opening their business, do you think, one sort of education preparation is better than another, one sort of training, or is it more just about having something in your heart and soul and passionate and just run with it if it's built in you?
Well, for me, all I can say is that I didn't have any education on running a business. And it was just the idea and the passion. So I honestly think that, that alone can really drive a good piece. The other thing is you need to assemble a team of professionals that can fill in holes that you're not good at. I am not a money person. And so to hire a good bookkeeper was really important to me. Take care of all of that. So, just find out what you're good at and what else is necessary, and find a good team that's going to help you in the areas that you may fall short. The other thing is, I worked, I had a lot of jobs where I was managed, and I observed my manager, and I would always think to myself, now, if I had that job, I would do it this way. And so I think I learned on my previous jobs how to be a good manager by having managers manage me. So
yeah, I love that. That's great how all of that came into play for you. But anyway, okay. Well, Kate, thank you so much for this most informative interview. And for all you listeners out there, go out and check out Home Transition Resource. You can find them on the web, and you will not be able to find a better company to help you with your downsizing and moving needs. Kate, thanks so much. This has been so informative and so interesting.
Thank you, Meg. Thanks for inviting me on today.
Such a great conversation with Kate. I so enjoyed it, and I hope all of you did as well. She's such an inspiration. If you think you could benefit from Kate's services at Home Transition Resource, please visit her website or follow her business on Facebook. I will provide all of the links in the show notes. Also, if you are an independent living community, an assisted living community, a lawyer or an accountant or a realtor that is working with selling a home or estate planning, you should definitely reach out to Kate, as she will take great care of you. And as a final note, anyone interested in learning more about our business, academic and career advising services, we invite you to visit our website, and we will include that link in the show notes. We assist people with changing careers, possibly finding that first job out of college, the college admissions process, selecting an academic major, deciding on a career, or things of that nature. You can check it all out on our website, Academic and Career Advising Services. We are located in Kennebunk, Maine. However, for your convenience, we also offer video conferencing services. You're never too old to change your career or to go back to college, and you're never too young to begin thinking about your future. We enjoy serving people of all ages.
If you enjoyed listening to today's podcast and would like to help us out, could you please leave a rating or review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts?
This really helps others to find our podcast.
We would greatly appreciate it. Also, to get all the latest on upcoming episodes, please follow us on social media. All of those links will be included in the show notes. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks so much for listening.